Hello everyone, it's Annie and I'm here today with my February wrap-up. Okay, so I read 9 books in February, not too many. Again, quality over quantity. And let me tell you, there was some really good quality books this month for me. Almost every book I read was 4 or 5 stars. I was just flabbergasted with the quality of the books that I read. I was very, very happy. And one of those books was just so spectacular that I can't even express it. So wait until the end for my favorite book of the month. But as always, I'll be starting with my least favorite, which is actually a 3-star book. So it wasn't like I hated it. Again, this was a really good month. So starting from 3 stars, going all the way up until my favorite of the month. So let's go. Okay, so my least favorite of the month was a 3-star, 2.75. Yeah, Sorry Bro by Talene Vascuni. We have not done the live show for this yet for my Sapphic book club. That is where I read this. I read this for my Sapphic book club with Jessica from Books Past Bedtime. I really wanted to love this book, but there were just some things that really rubbed me the wrong way. And again, I don't want to say too much because we haven't done our live show yet, but what's with the Taylor Swift hate? Okay, like what? That was unnecessary. And also calling this, there was a lot of things like that, like little bitty things that I was like, what? And also this is a type of rom-com that like the characters get together at the end and you just know that they're not gonna last. They're gonna break up immediately, okay? So it wasn't convincing to me. Okay, Arabuni and Nar's relationship was not convincing to me. It felt very flimsy. Yeah, so the point of this book is that Nar is an Armenian-American woman who is bi, but she hasn't really explored that part of her identity yet. She's also feels kind of disconnected with her Armenian roots. And this book is kind of her getting reconnected with her Armenian family and her culture and also discovering herself as a bi woman, which sounds great. But I just didn't like Nar. And I love unlikable women, okay? I do. Those are my favorite characters ever, okay? But she just rubbed me the wrong way. I did not like her decisions, the way she treated Arabuni, which was her love interest. She was super cute, by the way. She was adorable, little witchy queer girl. She was adorable, and I want to be her friend. But yeah, she deserves better than Nar, to be honest. There were some cute moments in there, but again, it just wasn't convincing to me. So it wasn't like the worst book I've ever read, so that's why I gave it like a 3. But yeah, again, don't hate on Taylor Swift in your books. It's just misogynistic, and especially if you're a female author doing that, that's a bad look, okay? It really is. Okay, so the next pick, from now on, it's 4 stars on, so they're all really, really good books that I really, really enjoyed. I am between these 2 books, so just pretend these aren't in any order, okay? First, we have The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson, which I really liked. This is a sapphic sci-fi about a girl who can go and travel into parallel universes, okay? And she works for this like evil company it's like a post-apocalyptic world. The world building is really, really cool. And she can travel between these worlds because she is dead in most of them, okay? Like her counterpart is dead, and you can only travel to a parallel universe if you're not alive in said universe, all right? So she's like a special person who can travel to almost every universe, but then she ends up traveling to a universe where she's alive. And that kind of kickstarts everything, all right? And yeah, so it is sapphic. The world building is cool. I felt like it was, I don't know what the right word is. It's messy is not the right word. Disconnected, I guess. There were a lot of side characters that I felt like I kind of blurred together, which was a shame, especially her love interest, because I felt like I really was in the main character's head a lot, and like obviously she's the main character, but like so you really get to know her and feel for her, but the side characters that she is supposed to feel for and like have great and complex connections with, I didn't really feel anything for. And again, they kind of blurred together, and I was like, wait, who is that again? And that's a little bit of a problem. So yeah, I mean, this book was really cool. Like I said, the world building was very interesting. Kara is like living in like these desert wastelands, and like it has really, really interesting society and like class systems, because she is important to this corporation that she works for because she can travel to so many parallel universes, but she is part of this society of people that are like really looked down upon. And so she feels like if she wasn't able to do this special thing, that they would just treat her like everybody else in her society. And yeah, I mean, she's right. It was good. It was good. You can tell that I don't remember everything about it. So that's why it's towards the bottom of the books that I read this month, but I'm not upset that I read it. I don't regret reading it. I did really like it, and I did appreciate that it was sapphic, of course. And I'm glad I finally read it. This has been on my shelf for like ages. But if you're looking for a sci-fi sapphic book, there are better ones out there. Okay? So that's just my opinion. Next book is A Master of Jinn by P. Djèlí Clark. I rated this like a 3.75, which is about the same as The Space Between Worlds. Yeah, that's what it's called. I liked this. Again, it was sapphic. This is a fantasy, however. It is a steampunk fantasy set in like an alternate universe, 1910s Cairo. The setting is amazing. I love that. The main character is Fatma, and she's the youngest woman working for the Ministry of Alchemy, Enchantments, and Supernatural Entities. She's also like one of the only women, and I think she was a strong character in the short stories and novellas that P. Djèlí Clark wrote about her, but she kind of got lost in this like thick book. She's like supposed to be this highly skilled investigator, mystery solver, and she just, like, I'm not that. And like I figured out the mystery before she did, and she just also made like a lot of stupid decisions that didn't really make sense. And she like overlooked a lot of things that were just like, what are you doing, Fatma? Like, what? And maybe that was intentional, I don't know. But anyway, I do like that she wore all those fancy suits. That was fun, but her character needs to be more than just fancy suits, you know? I do like that she got a new partner in her job who was also a woman, and I really liked that dynamic that they had. Because at first Fatima's like, she doesn't want to deal with her, she doesn't want to have a partner, she works alone, you know, she's too cool for this. And then her new partner is like, well, you're one of the only women in here, and so am I, and I worked hard to get here, and I thought that you know, would be more receptive to having a woman work with you. And so that was very interesting. Her relationship with the love interest was also very good. I did like that a lot. I don't know. The Jinn were not my favorite part of this book. They weren't my favorite part of the novella, even though obviously they play a big part of it. They're not my favorite part, but they play a good role in the story, I guess, and especially, no spoilers, but with the love interest as well. I thought that was well done. I don't know. I always feel like this is going to feel more like Fullmetal Alchemist than it actually does. So maybe that's just my own expectations getting in the way. But Fullmetal Alchemist is like, you know, steampunk and has that alchemy, obviously. And yeah, this has Jinn, the added elements of that. But like Fullmetal Alchemist has like the homunculi and stuff. And I don't know. Whatever. What am I saying? I liked it, is what I'm saying, but it wasn't my favorite. Okay, that's the gist of it. I think that this world was very, very lush, but there were just some things that, especially, it was too long. My problem with his novellas is that they're too short and I want more world building, but this was too long. I felt like there was a lot of repetition, and I actually found myself like speeding up the audiobook really fast, because I was just like, you are repeating things that we've already heard time and time again, and you're just going over these slow scenes, and we need to get moving, okay? And I believe this is his first full-length novel, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that can definitely get better, but that was probably the biggest problem I had with the book. But I think it was definitely still enjoyable. I mean, 3.75 is a good rating, okay? And it's a sci-fi fantasy, so definitely support it, okay? The next book is Blood Scion, which I also rated 4 stars. Again, I have this beautiful Fairy Loot edition that I got used from my library's used bookstore. So thanks to whoever donated this gem. I liked this book. However, I remember in my February TBR video, when I read the synopsis of this, I was like, wow, this sounds like The Trader Brew Cormorant, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And that made my expectations way too high because, first of all, nothing can be The Trader Brew Cormorant. It's just not possible. So that was already an issue. That was my issue, okay? That was entirely my fault, okay? Nowhere was this book ever compared to it, nor did it claim to be like Trader Brew Cormorant. That was just my problem, okay? But it has similar themes of colonization, and it is also YA, which obviously The Trader Brew Cormorant is not. That is an adult book, okay? This is YA fantasy. So it felt very YA not in that it was formulaic, not in that it had a forced romance. I don't think that was a problem at all. And I think Sloane, the main character, was very well developed. She was really a strong character, and as were all the side characters, honestly. I felt like they were all very different from each other, and they all kind of shined on their own. But it's a long book. And I felt like things that should have had more emotional impact were kind of like they either happened too quickly or they happened too quickly or too early on in the book. And we weren't really given time to see Sloane process it. Pacing, I guess, was an issue, the pacing. So I don't know. That was my problem with it. But again, if you like the themes of colonization and a female warrior infiltrating an evil empire to take it down from the inside, yeah, you would like this, okay? I know that there is a second one that is coming out, or maybe it has just come out. I'm not sure if I'm going to read it, but this was a really good book, okay? Especially if you like YA fantasy. I believe it was a debut. Yeah, it's a debut as well. So this is really good for a debut, like really spectacular, okay? And I'm really glad I read it. It was awesome. Okay, so now we're on to the 5-star books. So I actually read a poetry collection this month, which was titled Pocahontas, Poems by Tai Tibble, who is an Indigenous New Zealander. This is her American debut. This poetry collection explores her identity as a 21st century Indigenous woman and carves out a bold new way of engaging history, straddling modernity and ancestry, desire, and exploitation. So yeah, it was good. It was really good. I don't read many poetry collections, as you know if you followed me a lot, but I really enjoyed this one. I read this simply because the cover caught my eye on Goodreads. I was scrolling and I was like, ooh, that looks interesting, and I'm really glad I did. I'm not the best reader of poetry. I know that's like a skill that you can have. I'm not the best one, so I can't really give like an in-depth review of it because I feel like I don't know enough about poetry. But I really liked it, let's just say that. And it's super short, so if you're looking for a good poetry collection by an Indigenous poet, definitely check this one out. So the next book I read was Jollof Rice and Other Revolutions, a novel in interlocking stories, which I thought was absolutely phenomenal. It was quite short. Obviously, it's a short story collection. It was awesome. So it says, moving between Nigeria and America, jollof rice and other revolutions is a window into the world of accomplished Nigerian women, illuminating the challenges they face and the risks they take to control their destinies. So, for example, like one story follows students at an all-girls boarding school and who form an unbreakable sisterhood that is tempered during a school rebellion where one of the girls, she wasn't even taking part in the rebellion, but she was captured by the police or the military, and she had an asthma attack when they were holding her in jail and died because they didn't believe her. So that story in particular really stuck with me because it was just so horrific. And so after this rebellion in their school, we follow the girls throughout their adulthood and also their children's lives in different stories, whether they take place in Nigeria, in other African countries, or in America, as some of them do. So yeah, it's definitely not a feel-good book. There's a lot of tragedy that goes on. The description says it revolves around loss, belonging, family, friendship, alienation, and silence. Okay, so yeah, but it does have like an overarching feeling of hope. I don't know, it was really, really good. And this caught my eye on my library shelf because the cover is just something I have never seen anything like it, and I was like, I just need to read this book because of the cover, and I am really glad I did. This was a cover read for sure. That is totally worth it. And then next we have Bad Cree by Jessica Johns, which I loved. Okay, I loved this so much. This is a debut. It's a supernatural horror about a young Cree woman who wakes up one day and she had a dream about her dead sister, and in the dream she is like being attacked by crows, and she wakes up and the dead crow head is in her hand still in her bed, and you're like, what? Okay, so it starts off with a bang and it is so good. Her dreams get weirder and weirder and scarier, and she realizes that like she can bring stuff back from the dream world. She is totally aware in the dreams, and her dreams are trying to tell her something about her sister's Sabrina's untimely death. Okay, there is a lot of great stuff about family in here, about storytelling, about this young woman reconnecting with her Cree roots when she goes back to her family home in Alberta, right? Yes, in her rural hometown in Alberta. And because she had moved to Vancouver to have a job and kind of escape the grief of her sister's death. And she goes back to the home that she kind of ran away from and the people that she wasn't there for when they were grieving. And it was just so perfectly intertwined between the horror elements, the cultural elements, and just the really universal family elements of it all. I loved this book. If you liked White Horse by Erica T. Worth, you will really, really like this. It had a very similar feel. I have learned about myself that I really love books by Native American authors that are like horror or like supernatural. I don't know what it is about them. They just know what they're doing, okay? It was amazing. There are Wendigos in this book a little bit, okay? No spoilers, but it's just great. It's a great, great book. And honestly, it should be getting more attention because it was awesome. All right, next book. We have two more books. Is Song of Wraiths and Rune. I gave this book 5 stars, which I was actually shocked by. This is a YA fantasy book, this first book in a trilogy, and it's also a straight romance. If I rate a straight romance 5 stars, you know it's good, okay? This is amazing. All right, this was a amazing YA fantasy. Yeah, refreshing, immersive debut. I concur. New York Times bestselling author who wrote that blurb. So this follows 2 point of views, which is actually a point I wanted to make. I am of the firm belief that romance books should be dual POV. They should be. I'm gonna get mad. They should be dual POV. Okay, because you just get so much more of everything. And I feel like in a lot of YA fantasies with romances especially, it focuses usually on the girl and then the man is just like there. And like, yeah, he mentions things that like make him angsty or whatever, but you don't really get it. You don't really see his point of view of everything. And that always annoys me. But this was awesome. Okay, the dual POV really, it made everything amazing. Okay, so it follows Malik, who is the guy, and for him, the Solstasia Festival is a chance to escape his war-stricken home and start a new life with his sisters in the prosperous city of Ziran. But when a vengeful spirit abducts his younger sister Nadia as payment to enter the city, he strikes a fatal deal. He must kill the crown princess of Ziran, Karina, who is the other POV character, in exchange for Nadia's freedom. But Karina now. I love Karina, okay? We love her because she has deadly aspirations of her own. Her mother, the Sultana, has been assassinated, and her court threatens mutiny. Even though Karina is the rightful ruler, they don't really like her. They don't think she's fit to rule, and she has to really fight her own court, okay? She is grief-stricken, but decides to resurrect her mother through ancient magic. Yeah, we have some Full Metal Alchemist alchemy going on here where he's gonna resurrect his mom, Karina's gonna do the same thing, and that's always a recipe for disaster, and we love that, okay? We do. All right. But in order to do that, she requires the heart of a king, all right? She knows just how to obtain one by offering her hand in marriage to the victor of the Solstasia competition, which Malik enters in order to get closer to Karina to kill her, and then they fall in love, and it's just what? The intricate... I am so excited by this because it's finally a YA fantasy that I really liked, because if you guys have watched my videos recently, you know I've been struggling with YA fantasy. This was just so good. How both of their plot lines were weaved together so perfectly, okay? Nothing felt contrived. Nothing was like, oh, come on. Like, I didn't roll my eyes once during this book, okay? Not once, which is so hard to do. And their romance felt real. It felt refreshing, and just as complicated as it is in the synopsis, it felt that way too. It didn't feel fake. Nothing was rushed. The pacing was amazing. It's a long book, I'll give you that, but it needs it, okay? And I am definitely going to read the second book as soon as possible because I loved this and I need to know what happens, all right? This book is amazing. Okay, the last book, and arguably my favorite, although Song of Wraiths and Rune does give it a run for its money, is another YA. It's a YA contemporary called We Deserve Monuments by Jas Hammonds. And this book was awesome. It was hard-hitting, sweet, and just an amazing character study of all these characters. It was great, okay? So it follows 17-year-old Avery, who is convinced that her senior year is ruined when she's uprooted from her life in DC and forced into the home of her terminally ill grandmother, Mama Letty. And she never had a relationship with her because her mother and Mama Letty have a very difficult relationship. Mama Letty was abusive to her mother, and they never really had a relationship, okay? And there's a lot of past drama and trauma that is uncovered during this visit, okay? But every time Avery tries to look deeper and try and help, she's turned away, leaving her desperate to learn the secrets that split her family in two, okay? But while tempers flare in her family, Avery finds friendship in unexpected places in Simone, her captivating next-door neighbor, and Jade, the daughter of the town's most prominent family, whose mother's murder remains unsolved. As the three girls grow closer, Avery and Simone's friendship blossoms into romance. I love them. Okay. The sharp-edged opinions of their small southern town begin to hint at something insidious underneath. There's a lot of racist history in Bardell, Georgia, where this story takes place. And it affects Avery's family in ways that she can't even begin to imagine. So it's kind of a race against time because Mama Letty's health is declining every day because she has cancer, and she has to decide whether digging for the truth and digging up all this trauma and upsetting history is worth it, or if she should just leave well enough alone and still have questions about her family. This was a really hard-hitting book that left me thinking about it for a long time after I finished it. Avery and Mama Letty's relationship was one of the best written relationships I've ever read in a YA book or otherwise, because we have this grandmother who has gone through so much hardship, no spoilers, but so much hardship in her life, and she doesn't really understand her granddaughter. Her granddaughter doesn't really understand why this woman is so mean, but they end up becoming really close and having a family relationship, but it's very, very bittersweet because it's at the end of her life. And it is so sad. This book is really sad, okay? So don't read this if you don't want to cry. It is really, really sad, but there are so many great, great scenes. Some scenes that really made me angry as well, but they were supposed to, okay? And that's the mark of a good book, where you feel a whole range of emotions while you're reading it. This book was awesome. There's a lot of drama within the family and also within Avery and her new friends that she makes. There's that overarching mystery that goes in throughout the whole book, so it is primarily a contemporary book. There's also a tiny bit of romance and also a tiny bit of mystery, okay? So there's a lot going on here, but it is weaved together so perfectly, or woven, and it's just an amazing, amazing book, and it really, I think it deserves to win awards. It better, okay? It's so good, and I can't believe this was a debut book. Was it a debut book? I don't know. I hope so, because I said that it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so that's amazing in and of itself. I don't know how Jess Hammonds did that, but you should really read this, because this was my favorite book of the month. Alright, so thank you so much for watching this February wrap-up. I really hope you enjoyed. I hope you got some new books to add to your TBR. Let me know if you've read any of the books in this video, and let me know what your favorite book you read in February was down in the comments below. Alright, if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more bookish videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye!